Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. In today's edition, I wanted to first greet you, and I'm definitely sure that all of you had a great and wonderful Diwali celebrations. So, coming right back after that, we have had a major election in the United States. We are going to talk about it. We are going to talk about it for precisely a reason that the United States is the largest powerful democracy in the world. It's a beacon, it's an element of hope. People want to come here. People give an arm and a leg to come here. There is a line for waiting to come to the United States. So whatever happens in the US, it impacts the world. It has to show that this is the way the life is to be led, the famous American life. People are coming from all over the places. We will spend some time in discussing the implications and impact of the elections that happened on Tuesday. It's important also because it has ramifications for domestic politics, because now what is going to happen, that the era of unified governments is over at the moment. But this is not something new. It has happened in the past. Mr. Clinton, Mr. Obama, they all lost substantial congressional seats. In the case of the Republican Party this time, apparently 43 people resigned from the seats and took retirement. I'm sorry, it's not actually resigned, but they took early retirement. As a result of which, additional seats were available to contest, and Democrats won the race. Important pointer here, although there was a blue wave talked about, that blue wave did not happen. It remained kind of purple. This is the point of view of many experts that we have talked about, and that's my view too, that Republicans retaining control of Senate has kind of made their life easier for more reasons than one. So while the legislation will happen in the Congress, the Senate will proceed ahead with confirmations of judicial nominees as well as administration nominees, which was a problem earlier on. To discuss all these matters, the impact, implications, the global impact, considering United States has just imposed the sanctions on Iran back again, US plays a role and the whole world is looking at it. With Mr. Trump, there is never a dull moment. To discuss all these things, I have a great privilege of welcoming Mr. Indrajit Saluja, somebody who has been on this television programs, many of the ITV's programs in the past. He's an editor, he's a professor, and he's a very learned man. And I have a special pleasure welcoming Mr. Ashok Vyas. Mr. Ashok Vyas has been running two shows on ITV. One is The Wide Angle, and the other one is Inside Tonight. So both these programs, I have been on the other side of the aisle, and this time he is on the other side of the aisle. So I begin the conversation with Professor Saluja to give his thoughts on the impact and implications of this election in the United States.
I must say good morning to viewers of ITV. We have recently witnessed a historic election, probably one in many decades. It has, as Vibhuti said, implications not for a year, not for 2 years, but implications for years to come. And these implications manifest in so many ways. Now, if you go back and look at surveys, we would recall that more Americans are concerned with health care, followed by immigration, followed by economy. But the most important thing that weighed in the mind of the voters who voted out Republicans from the Congress and did not give enough votes to Republicans to have a clean sweep of the Senate, which they had already controlled in the past. They have gained only 2 more Senate seats, with their strength going beyond 51 And I remember the Democrats, have had a very comfortable win with the House, where they gained somewhere up to 32 seats, if I am not wrong. Their tally has gone beyond 325. At the latest I remember is 199 with the Republicans. And there were 11 seats more yet to be accounted for. That was a tally that I saw this morning. Maybe it has now a different tally altogether, but whatever it is. So what we see is, as Vibhuti rightly said, the legislation is the prerogative of the House. They are the ones who are going to make laws. And whatever laws they make, the president has to, I'm bypassing Senate at the moment, the president has to agree with those laws. And if he doesn't agree with those laws, he may not give his assent to those laws. That is how the Constitution works. And then in between, we have the Senate, looking after appointments of all kinds, and it's much easier now Trump to get his nominees appointed. He had problem earlier, the latest being the appointment of the Supreme Court nominee Kavanaugh.
If I will just interject here for the purpose of making a particular introduction of a topic, that is, will there be more gridlocks now that the Congress is with the Democrats? The president is on the other hand. They have never been on good terms ever since the journey began.
So that's
the point which I'm going to say, if it is a gridlock, who is supposed to take the initiative? Normally, it ought to be the president who has to take the initiative to reach out to the House, Representative Nancy Pelosi in this case.
Right.
And given the back and forth has gone between them, where is the possibility? Let me request Ashok ji to give his thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I also want to greet viewers and you on this particular show, which is Frankly Speaking. So frankly speaking, I want to go back slightly with both of you. And this is the first time in 50 years that in midterm election, voters have shown so much enthusiasm. After 1966, this is the first time that so much excitement among voters brought them to polling booths. Having said that, what way President Trump is likely to face the opposition in the coming months and year was reflected in the first media interaction that he had at White House. And I think this was a Diwali day when we had this live session with President Trump interacting with reporters, and there were a lot of firecrackers for the viewers who were watching that live at home as well as. And now I'll come back to Professor Saluja and you. The way he handled some of the critical questions which were questioning his authority or his way of working, do you see that approach is likely to help him in winning the opposition and moving forward together? And in particular, I want you to respond as well as Professor Saluja, the way CNN reporter was pointed out and now he's barred from entering into White House. So his questioning and response of President Trump in particular, and in general, his way of settling scores on individual basis. Do you see that?
We will get back to the media scenario a little later. I had planned to discuss that as well with you because we are all media here. So that's important. We will definitely get back to. But one of the questions which is very important, and I think politicians are not stupid. They are very smart people. They both know, Republicans and Democrats both know, that there is no substitute to cooperation. The people are watching. वो जो famous राजेश खन्ना का गाना है, public सब जानती है. People are watching, and particularly in this strong media era, where people get to know everything, one way or the other. You can propagate thoughts and action plans on a tweet or Facebook, and that becomes the kind of a discussion point. So everybody knows, Mr. Trump knows that, Democrats led by Mrs. Pelosi, which is likely to be or not to be, we do not know that yet. But this will be a major issue. Both of them are 70 plus. They have to recognize that element, age and wisdom. Whether age and wisdom will come into play or not, we do not know. But one thing is definitely true. Nobody wants government shutdown. Nobody wants an era of continuing resolutions. They want budget, they want action, people wanting to. In favor of Trump, the one thing that goes with him, he has managed the economy well. So as a result of which, if Bill Clinton's statement, its economy is stupid, is true, then that's perhaps the reason is that he has not been whitewashed in these elections, despite the political hard stance that he takes. That's the point which I wanted to check with you, is that what do you think, whether wisdom will prevail, whether Trump will walk a line, across the line to offer a hand of friendship, or is he going to be, like he told in the press conference, you hit me, if you want me to be boring president, I will be the boring president, but if you want to hit me, I'll hit you back. That was the stand he took even during the campaign time. Your thoughts?
Well, Vibhuti, very well said, but I would seek your permission to comment on what Ashok ji said just now. He talked about voter enthusiasm in this election, something very important. Never before we have had such enthusiasm amongst the voters in the last couple of decades almost, and never before we had such turnout of women voters and women candidates.
Absolutely.
More than 100
yes,
women have been elected to the House, and hundreds more have been elected to other positions.
Right.
So that enthusiasm that Ashok ji is talking about, I would like, because you want interpretation and analysis, why this enthusiasm? And I kept thinking on it. And then I went to the speeches of Trump, went to the speeches made by the Democrats. Trump talked about, during the last couple of weeks of his electioneering campaigning, mobs versus jobs. Democrats are bringing in mobs, and I am trying to protect jobs. He created an impression for the voters, for his base, particularly the whites, I must be very honest about it, that Democrats are pro-immigrants, they will bring in immigrants, and immigrants are going to get them into power, and then immigrants will rule this place, and the whites would probably be sidelined. That was the kind
you
of,
are right.
that was the fear. That was the fear.
Yeah.
I am coming to that.
Yeah.
That was the fear created by Trump in particular, which brought out so many voters. On the other side, Democrats kept creating a fear. Look here, he is anti-immigrant. He is putting all immigrants in bad light, showing all immigrants in bad light. He wants to take away your health care, he wants to take away your benefits, he wants to take away your life even. And that was the reason that non-white voters,
this actually happened during the presidential election in 2016, because that was the agenda, that was the narrative provided by New York Times and other places, that the American demographic pattern will change and whites will no longer be in majority. That definitely propelled the middle America to vote en bloc for enthusiastically for Mr. Trump. The issue again here is, and I will come to you, Ashok ji, on that, is that Mrs. Pelosi made the statement that she will start campaign reform, she will campaign finance, she will talk about ethics on these during her regime. Now, the important part is that ethics is not an item in space. It's not a hallucinatory conversation. It's a very real conversation. Politicians have been rather erratic on their ethical parameters, because we know many of them have got away with a slap on the wrist even for major violations. That, how do you think the Democratic Party will deliver on that account, which is very important because ethics plays a big role. It's not a matter of just convenience. It is not a, what you call, an item in the space, if I may repeat that statement again.
Okay, so when you're talking about ethics, then you're talking about character, then you're talking about the statements that you have heard from President Trump and the kind of image which, rightly or wrongly, is circulating all along his presidency. It's not something where you can talk much about ethics from that point of view. And media as well as Democratic Party has again and again talked about the conflict of interest because of his business interest in various countries and whatnot. So I won't be able to comment much on ethics, but I don't see that becoming a big issue in terms of when the real issues, when I say real, which are related to the economic parameters. So right now, President Trump, whether you or many people may like it or not, he's on a strong footing in terms of the job creation and overall economic growth, as well as a sense of hope among entrepreneurs in America. So that way, I feel President Trump has done well. Now, coming back to the other side, where he mentioned in that media interaction also that if they choose to follow the path of investigation, and the way he talked about investigation is as if he's already fed up with the approach that is taken by Democrats. Now, do you see them leaving that approach? I don't see that happening. Do you, as you were asking Professor Saluja earlier, a lot of gridlocks? Definitely. Will he be able to overcome them? I feel it is going to be very difficult because he may change his stand for some time and become like a soft guy and a humble guy and a polite person, but he cannot live that sort of image for long. So he'll come across as arrogant
Stranger
again.
things have happened in politics, and they do. For example, when Bill Clinton lost the House with a thumping defeat, Newt Gingrich came. And we know, as a matter of record, that Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton formed a partnership that led to spurt in improved relationships and spurt in growth of economics. So now we will come back, we'll take a short break. Welcome back. We are now going to talk about a couple of issues which are very, very relevant for you and I because we get impacted by that. Let's take the issue of gridlock. Where can the gridlock happen? What are the possibilities of who will take the first step? The Democrats or the Republican or the president himself? The gridlock can happen on Russia investigation. Gridlock can happen if the Democratic Party chooses to go for investigation. A gridlock can happen on impeachment issue. So there are a couple of issues on which gridlock can happen. And Mr. Trump is on record having said that if you are nice with me, I'm nice with you. Hit me hard, I will hit you doubly hard. If that is the stand going to be, who will have the upper hand in the current administration the way it is, given whether it's a 2 or 3 seat majority in the Senate, Mr. Trump will continue to proceed with his judicial nominees, which is a very important win for him. He leaves a mark. And the second part is that legislative agenda, if he doesn't pursue, he will have somebody to blame for the 2020 election. The record also exists that when the president loses this majority and loses Congress, House or Senate, he wins the presidential election. And I'm 100% sure there are many in the Congress party who believe that Mr. Trump is vulnerable in 2020. So what will emerge out of that is a question that we do not know. Politicians play a long game. Their long game is made up of many short-term efforts and actions. Your thought on that?
Well, Vibhuti, I know one thing, I agree with you on that. Politics, of course, it's a game of scoundrels, and scoundrels, can do anything, anytime, But then, it also is a game, at which you have strange bedfellows. It's not necessary that what is said will be carried out. And we have seen that in the case of Mr. Trump, shut down, and there comes a time when there is a last minute compromise, and there is no shutdown. Now, I'm coming to the question of gridlock, possibility of gridlocks. Now, the issues for Trump, it is border wall. For Democrats, it is not the border wall. There is one particular issue on which both seem to agree, that is infrastructure. The first thing that Pelosi said, talked about the issue, she said infrastructure. And Trump has also spoken about the broken infrastructure of the US, and he said that that would be his priority. So on that they can converge. But Trump will probably, and that is what I am going to, I want you to understand well. Trump is probably going to say, okay, any other issue later on, first give me money for border wall. Because that is something which he has promised to his base and which he would like to do.
But the interesting element of the border and immigration, which is the hot thing button here issue conversation, you are right. I mean, as we discussed, immigration and healthcare were the number 1 and 2 matters.
Healthcare is number 1.
Yeah, healthcare is number one, and immigration was number 2 issue. And ever since I came to this country in 91, every single Democrat and Republican candidate has talked about comprehensive immigration reform without having touched it. There have been presidential orders, executive orders given, but nothing substantial.
Only in the time of Reagan.
Yeah, nothing substantial happened. So the question here is, if you look at the statements made by President Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and many other leaders, including Harry Reid, both on the Republican and Democratic side,
Bush.
they have made very strong statements about illegality of people coming here, and they are all on record. At one time, it was a rather light or serious joke, as you might choose to take it, that Trump said, I agree with Obama. The question here is the wall. What type of immigration overhaul will happen and what needs to be done? What he's trying to do here is, he has raised an issue, he has hinted at the potential $900 billion of military money, defense budget that can be easily appropriated to fund this entire wall. Will wall be a wall between Democrats and Republicans? Will it create a wedge between the two parties? Because immigration issue is not going to go away. It is going to stay. Your thoughts on that, Ashokji?
So, Vibhuti, there are a couple of things as we sit together, and I hear Professor Saluja say that politics is a game of scoundrel, which is heard quite often. But to put it in the perspective of the current democracy, whether in America or India, I see that by and large, whether we see them with sort of a respect that once upon a time was reserved for politicians, yet they bring certain amount of integrity, commitment, and willingness to serve the nation. And I would say that holds true for President Trump as well as for Nancy Pelosi. But what happens is, referring to now the possibility of gridlock, and in the context of problem related to immigration, in particular attempts to prevent illegal immigrants entering into the territory of this great nation. We are making America great again. So now both leaders would find themselves that they are putting party above nation in some way, and that sort of harmony which is required for them to move ahead, it's very difficult to foresee. And I know you said that strange things happen, but right now it is all hypothetical that we are talking about. So looking at the kind of statements that one has heard from Nancy Pelosi for President Trump, and the kind of nice words which he has used for her, leaving aside this present condition when he appreciated that she has been very enthusiastic and he appreciated her hard work and all that. This is just a recent phenomenon.
Right.
But the baggage that they carry inside, it is not giving me a visual of a very bright and harmonious picture.
You are totally right. I agree with you on that, because that's what the nature of politics is. We all know that, because now it is 2018. In a matter of blinks, it will be 2020 soon. Just imagine, Trump is almost to complete his second year. So another 1 year, and then the campaign season begins. How will Democrats apply their strength right now to create roadblocks to their advantage, and why shouldn't they? Because that's the nature of the game. So why shouldn't they prepare themselves for 2020 onslaught on Mr. Trump, putting him in a jeopardy situation with Russia, Russia investigation, and a whole lot of things. But there was a very interesting thing said by Mitch McConnell. He said, we have done the impeachment game, and we paid dearly for that. So if you are going to go in that domain, be prepared to lose. So he gave a friendly warning to Democrats that if you choose the impeachment and investigation path, you are going to be the loser.
Absolutely. Professor, I also want your take on the possibility of Daca and Vibhuti, that he mentioned.
The Daca situation is such that it is under
already
process.
The court
is deciding, and yes, Trump has said it will go to the Supreme Court. Decision will be taken.
And when it goes to Supreme Court, then we will see.
That we will see about that. That's brilliant. What I also wanted to check with you was something very interesting happened. There were two very strong candidates of Democratic Party, Beto O'Rourke in Texas against Ted Cruz, and the gentleman Andrew Gillum in Florida for governor's position. Both of them would have broken record if they had won. As a matter of fact, some people told me that if Democrats lose everything, if Ted Cruz loses, that's the win for Congress, for the Democratic Party. Tell me about this one, because the amount of money that was pumped in Beto O'Rourke's election and the star power from Obama to Hollywood, they campaigned for Beto O'Rourke and Andrew Gillum. Both lost, and I suppose
no,
there's a recount going.
It's still open.
There is a recount situation happening,
open,
which is itself marred in deep controversy of sorts. Because
whatever it is, but it is not closed yet.
It's not closed yet.
Yes.
But think about it like this: why these two these two stars of Democratic Party were not successful, despite the star power campaign from Obama to Hollywood to you name them, and the money power.
So if I briefly share my analysis to this, the ground reality sometimes dominates the star power that flows in that particular constituency, and I think we many times give too much weightage to money and potentially star campaigners from Hollywood or
I may just
politics.
add here.
Yeah.
It is said that to succeed in American politics or politics anywhere in the world, you need 3 M's: money, media, and muscle. So the star power brings that kind of a muscle. Money matters because your advertisements then roll on, and that contributes hugely in the later stages of the game. So please do not discount that. Yeah.
What you said is sad. That is true.
Yeah.
But what is said is always not true. And there are many exceptions. And Democrats probably are not perceived as favorably as Republicans. And then this has been the case even during the first time when President Trump got elected. Democrats probably spent more money than him. But he got more mileage through media. And so money play some role. But overall, the smartness plays more role.
Right.
So probably they prove to be smarter than Democrats in these two territories. I would not be able to get into the exact nitty-gritty of what might have happened. Professor Saluja might have more insight on that probably.
Right. Professor Saluja is a journalist, and he definitely
I would like to add to
Please.
that. True that Beto had more money to spend. And Beto was trying to wrest this seat from Ted Cruz. And the fact is that it's a Republican preserve. It's not a Democratic preserve. And the number of votes that he got, the thin margin that he, had against Ted Cruz. I mean, he lost by a thin margin. That speaks a lot for the man and for the party. I don't think Republicans should gloat over the victory of Ted Cruz, which is, no victory at all, considering the fact that it was a Republican.
If I may say this here,
and Mr.
a win
Trump
is a win.
Mr. Trump,
A win is
Mr.
a win.
Trump himself,
Yeah.
himself went there, even though Ted Cruz and Trump are known not to have very good feelings for each other.
Yeah, we know that with the presidential campaign onwards.
So-
the point of the matter is here something different. The different point is that the Texas demographic is also changing. The entire southern belt of America.
No, gerrymandering, gerrymandering,
there is no gerrymandering in Senate.
gerrymandering has changed so much all over
Gerrymandering
USA.
is not in
If you
Senate.
want to
Wait,
discuss,
one minute,
if you
one
want to
minute.
discuss that issue,
Sarojini,
I can discuss with you.
There is no gerrymandering for Senate. And it was a
Constituency-wise.
Senate seat. It was not a Congress seat. I agree with you. Gerrymandering happens in the congressional
Absolutely, it
election.
happened in the Congress, but it ultimately affects the composition of the voters in a particular.
In the Senate, it doesn't matter because it's a state,
it does.
2 seats in the state. So it doesn't matter in that scenario. I mean, this has been agreed upon. The point is very important here is that Beto was a great candidate. If you see his speeches, he is absolutely flamboyant and remarkable in his style and presentation. I'm not taking anything away from him. But also what is important here is that but for the star power that campaigned for him, he may not have made the impact. He may win next time. Who knows? But the point of the matter is that he has made he was even talked about as a presidential candidate, potential presidential candidate. Both of them, Andrew Gillum as well as O'Rourke. And that's why it becomes important.
These are very close races, including the one in Georgia.
Yeah.
Including the one in Georgia, which is
like
still
for example, in a
undecided.
sports field, sometimes you win a match, the very next match you lose to the same team. It happens. I mean, to draw the analogy from sports, anyone can beat, any team can beat anybody, any other team.
Ultimately, it's a question of who won.
Who won?
Yeah, that's it.
That's the point which is important here. That seat went to Ted Cruz and he held on to that. That said, the other part which I was thinking about, and I want your thought on this, is that with this kind of an election scenario, United States, everybody looks upon United States. And there will be a gridlock, and there will be scenario where the focus will shift to domestic agenda more than international agenda. Other than, how do you feel that the world is perceiving United States model of democracy working for each one of them? Like we all want to be like Mike. So we want to be, if we want to be like America, is this what we want to be? Is there hope, or this shows a kind of a dissonance in the politics or the governance of the process?
Professor, I'll be very brief. I'll allow me to sort of connect, because
Go ahead.
I don't see that the world and the other countries look up to America in order to emulate the form of governance that America has taken for itself. I don't see America is perceived with that kind of importance, and nations are not in the stage of forming themselves. They already have their role that they have assigned for them. So allow me to finish. And America has tried to, if I use the word, impose democracy in certain nations. That experiment didn't work very well, because they were not ready for democracy, but America wanted them to have democracy. So even democratic form of government may not be suitable for all the nations. We may like it as a universal sort of a principle at the moment in this day and age. But again, America has its peculiar way of running itself with presidential form of government. Even Indian democracy functions in a different manner, and I see the intelligence of your question, but I don't know whether any nation would like to look up to America in order to redesign themselves as far
Fair
as,
enough. I mean, you are absolutely on the dot with your comment on this. But the point which I'm trying to drive at is United States, whether via business, sanction, relationships, makes an impact on other countries. So we will get back to these topics and some more in terms of India relationship with the United States and what's happening in India in the next segment. Stay tuned for these short, brief messages. Welcome back. In this particular segment, we will talk about two issues: United States and India relationship, the impact of this Trump administration, and India is coming into 2019 elections. As we know from the news that we gather, things are heating up. They are not only heating up, they're hotting up too. And there are a lot of things happening in India. We will get back to that soon after we finish. One particular element that I wanted to talk about is the Trump and media relationship. He has been on offensive with media ever since his presidential campaign, including the last press conference that we saw, in which there was a virtual tug of war going on. What is the line of what is media's role? How do we define aggression versus insulting Q&A? What must happen? Because cordiality is important in any kind of a relationship. If you want something to happen, confrontation doesn't get you anywhere. So who benefits and who loses? A minute each on this subject matter, because we all belong to media. And it is important for us. I would be upset both scenarios, if either behaving like the CNN questioner, or if I was Trump. I would be unhappy at the way the exchange ended or the way it fomented itself. So your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So I'm happy for you, Vibhuti. Neither you are Trump nor you were there
Yeah,
as a CNN reporter. So you are happy. Now, talking about the body language, the language that is used, and call it aggression or sincere role of a reporter, it is very difficult sometimes, because even sitting at home, you perceive certain amount of tension that builds up if you are bringing a reference which you can foresee would be unpleasant for the president. Then you are already thinking about that issue, and so the way you come out when you speak, either your tone is a little aggressive or your body language. I saw some of the reporters, it was as if they are about to attack the president or whosoever they are asking. So it takes a lot of practice for one to be balanced, poised, calm, yet make your point. And there were some people who were playing that game. When I say playing that game, Professor, they open up with little bit politeness, with little bit of warming up, and then they enter into the territory where they know that it will be perceived like an attack by the president. So what you are saying, if I sum it up, I think there is no ideal way of defining how one would behave. It again would vary from personality to personality, but I agree with you that civility should not be lost.
I mean, this was the point which even Republicans talked about, that we have to bring back civility. And on that subject matter, I was pretty horrified that yesterday it was reported on Fox News that one of their TV anchors, Tucker Carlson's house was attacked by Antifa people, in which they said, "We know where you sleep, we are coming for you, you scumbag." The language that was used. Now, we know, it's on record, that Antifa is virtually supported by the Democratic Party. Do you think any one of us can accept that kind of a behavior by any group? And shouldn't Democratic Party condemn that part of the activity? How desirable is that in terms of instigating some of your supporters, go look at their face, chase them in their house, chase them in the restaurant, chase them in the gas station? How fair is that? How civil is that? Your thoughts on that?
Well, sir, I'm for the rights of everybody. I'm for the right of a reporter to ask a question. I'm for the right of a president to answer the question. I'm for the right of defense of any citizen. Here, nobody, no mob should try to terrorize or harm anybody. That is what a democracy is. I uphold all these values, and I think every right-thinking person should condemn a rowdy behavior and uncivil behavior by anybody, whether an ordinary reporter or a politician or the President of the US.
You have said universal truth, and I totally agree with you, because that's important. Civility is key to democracy and whatever happens with that. Now, returning to the question of India, I would like you gentlemen to address the issue in terms of US-India relationship. Something significant, that despite Iran's sanction, United States has exempted India from buying from sanctions. India can buy the oil from Iran. They have also exempted India's port construction in Chabar. So the point here is very simple. How do we see India-US relationship moving forward in this scenario? In my opinion, I think Mr. Trump is very keen. It's very interesting to note the largest democracy, India, the strongest, the oldest democracy, United States, both have leadership which are clearly right of center. And the left is going bananas over it. And both of them are trying to make structural shifts in their countries that they are trying to do. One is Make in India, other is America First. The question here is, will they be able to form an alliance or relationship in which they don't hurt each other's agenda, because each one wants their own country to grow? How do you see that shaping up in this scenario? Ashokji.
I think it is shaping up very well. Let's backtrack and see the moment President Trump was during his campaign trail. He appreciated Prime Minister Modi, he appreciated India, and he has maintained that approach. There were visuals of both these leaders hugging each other, which was very much talked about. But what I find significant here is there has been consensus on some key issues which are important for India as well as America from the point of view of counter-terror efforts. And also the way India has always wanted that Pakistan be perceived for what it is. So American administration under President Trump has shown some sign of understanding concerns of India and genuine concern from that point of view. But what I fail to understand, if not 100% commitment, but as a gesture President Trump had agreed, or maybe there was no clear-cut sign, but he was due to be chief guest at Republic Day celebration 26 January 2019 in India, which now after this Iran issue and few other issues where India showed or demonstrated that it is not following America. They have some memorandum of understanding with Russia also in the defense sector. So whether it is a result of some of these actions on the part of India to show its might or its right to decide for itself, paying not enough attention to what America wants or the way it is perceived. Is it a result of some of these issues that President Trump has decided not to go to India as chief guest for Republic Day?
I mean, yeah, that invitation was sent for quite some months. There was no response to that. There was no immediate acceptance of the invitation, which would have meant different in terms of language or messaging, as the saying goes, which is true. But then we do not know. There are certain things happen in the back of the thing. You are absolutely right, because it may have irked US that India has signed the major deal of defense deals with an Iran relationship as well. But at the same time, in your opinion, what I would say is, where do you see this entire relationship moving forward in real terms? Because there are domestic compulsions of US will definitely dictate in the foreign relationships. India and United States have a strategic relationship which is very sound. Both have amazing commonality of purpose. There's one important part, and you alluded to that, Ashokji, that terrorism is an issue which is uppermost in the minds of both leaders, Modi as well as Trump. And in all fairness to United States, they have reined in or not egged on Pakistan in this particular thing. That must sound music to every Indian in the world around us.
Well, I think Given the present scenario, the relationship between US and India is quite steady. I don't see any hiccups. There are minor problems, irritants always, like India buying, having a defense deal with Russia. It irked US. Or India being so cozy and friendly with Iran, it doesn't please America. H-1B visa issue here, that doesn't please India. So these things are minor irritants which can always be ironed out, but the fact remains that both, as you rightly pointed out, are right to the center, and that is one thing that binds them together, because it is the idea which brings you closer.
Correct.
Not the material material aspects,
Right.
So that way I think they will have a closer relationship as far as the ideas are concerned. But for small things, there could always be problems, there could always be irritants, which can always be ironed out.
No relationship is 100% smooth.
Absolutely.
That will be there.
Even between you and
Talking
your wife.
about yes, you're right. That's a domain the world knows.
Yeah.
So the point, there is another issue which is very important. India is heating up and hotting up, preparing for 2019 elections. We do not know what's going to happen. This is not a launch of that conversation, but there is a conversation on Mahagathbandhan. Karnataka model has kind of inspired the opposition parties to bury their hatchet with one-point agenda, defeat Modi. Now, very interesting people have come together, are trying to come together. Looks like Mr. Naidu of Andhra is taking the lead in it, because he has tried to bring in Rahul Gandhi, given him a lot of respect. Then in Karnataka, Gowda and HDK are coming together, the meetings are happening. But the interesting part was the statement issued by Mr. Naidu, and I would want you gentlemen to comment on that, and I will give my views on that. To quote, Mr. Naidu said, "We are uniting to save democracy, institutions and constitution of the country, and we are not really for power." Now, in my humble opinion, and I want you to disagree or agree with me as you feel, I think this is a big lie of 2018 stepping into 2019, because it's about power. Let's face it. Politics is not about charity. Politics is not about non-profit organization. It's a power game. That's the reason why once you have tasted victory in politics, you can never leave it. So this pompous declaration that it's not about power, but that's exactly what Gandhi wanted with Congress party, that post-independence, go back and serve the rural areas, leave the political ambition. How does this serve, and are people of India not seeing through this big lie, in my opinion, what I call a big lie, going into 2019? This is a quotation, I love it, because he has articulated a point of view that we are not for power. Then what exactly is that?
Okay, so you are politically incorrect in saying what you just said, that it is a big lie. That is not the way you say in politics. So what you say is not going to be black and white truth of the kind that you have referred to. Now, what unites political parties, apparently they all want to serve the nation is the agenda. And I sincerely feel that if you are active in social or political life, there is something bigger than yourself that you perceive and you want to contribute. And I had the good fortune of interacting with Chandrababu Naidu recently at Indian Consulate, and he comes across as a very intelligent person. So now, coming back to this statement and the kind of strategic alliance that they are making, that certainly is to gain power. I agree with you. But if they don't say it, that is all right. You can, I mean, voters do read.
My perspective is, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. My perspective is that we notice a lot of dishonesty in politics. I mean, does anybody trust any politician? No, because they live in their own world of half-truths.
Okay, so here is the thing.
Yeah.
When you ask a question and you answer the question, then you are good in communicating what you think, but leave the space for answer to come from someone who is listening to you. For example, when you say, are they honest? So there would be.
I'm talking about perception of honesty.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. So the perception of honesty depends on if you love Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then what you say, you would think that that is complete truth. And if you dislike him, then anything that is coming from a position which gives you hope that there is a way to remove him, you will perceive that to be an honest statement coming from political leader of opposition parties. But let me briefly sum my side of it. It is like analysis, the way they have tried, and there are different voices, whether people like Rahul Gandhi to be the leader of the coalition of opposition, and the kind of image which again and again emerges about Rahul Gandhi's being sincere politician, etc. So it is going to be very difficult for opposition to have a one voice, because as they start seeing a ray of hope that they are gaining substantially and there is a potential, there would definitely be other leaders who would like to brush aside Rahul Gandhi. And overall, I was in India recently and I see both sides are quite active. Yet on national level, what my humble reading tells me, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has good, solid standing, and his image is still intact in the minds of people in spite of all the hardships or whatever has come. So my two cents, Prime Minister Modi is coming back. This coalition would
and
of
that
course make it
exactly
difficult.
the question which I want your thought on it, that all the surveys say that 61%, 63% chances people want Modi to be the Prime Minister. But if this state Mahagathbandhan happens, where people want to defeat Modi in the state, they won't let you capture as many seats, then how does he become the Prime Minister? If he loses elections in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, or Bihar, or UP, or Rajasthan for that matter, if the BJP is thrown out of power or not getting enough seats, how will he become Prime Minister? So there is a contradiction in it. And I will also request you for one more thing which is very important, because I noticed that in India, Supreme Court has almost become an administrative decision maker on issues which have very little constitutional element to that. I say this because Diwali time stipulation, that crackers will be burst here, not taking account in the sentiments on many issues, and they have gone with the pollution level is X or Y. How do you see, should Supreme Court be concerned more with the Constitution of India, like here they talk about it, or they talk about the element of becoming an administrative wing?
Will you please allow me to respond to the earlier issue?
Sure.
Because I haven't had my take on that. If you are running short of time, I think I can hold.
No, we have a minute or two. Yeah.
Mahagathbandhan. Go back to post-emergency era. All kinds of parties under Jayaprakash Narayan, they all banded together. The only idea was to remove Indira Gandhi. That is the kind of sentiment that is prevailing now. Remove Modi. Your question, if BJP loses, how can Modi, even if he is elected, and he will be elected,
Yes.
no doubt about that, how can he become the Prime Minister? Of course, he cannot become the Prime Minister. So, politics is about power, as you said. So, let us wait and watch, and maybe next time when we meet, we would be in a better position to discuss this issue.
Brilliant.
And as far as the other question that you raised just now, what was that?
Now I forgot that question because the time factor came into play.
So
what we will do is, we will end the program here today. Thank you very much for being with us. Last word is, at no point in time must truth and trust be defied or affected. We are right now living in a kind of a cosmic zone. Nobody seems to know what's going on. And there's so much of uncertainty, angst, and anger. Let's create more hope, because hope is quintessential human issue and human strength, because that's where we become better. So with these words, we end the show today. Welcome back. Thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you, Saluja ji, and thank you, Ashok ji, for
Pleasure.
joining the show here.
Pleasure.
I
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you again. Next week, we will be ready with another topic which impacts all of us. Have a wonderful weekend.